meeting your husband, eh? And he was from San Bernardino.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. And you were married, and then after the kids grew up, you decided you went back to you went
Yeah,
to
I went back
you
to school.
volunteered. You volunteered.
Volunteered in the schools because I wanted to keep an eye on Eric. He was a troublemaker, and so I went to keep an eye on him, and I volunteered. And then
What was it? Elementary school?
elementary school, Grant School, and Paul J. Rogers. And then I got a job as a teacher's aide at Paul J. Rogers. And me and Josie Hernandez were going to Valley College at the time, studying sociology and psychology. And so I graduated in '76 from Valley College, and I got the opportunity to go into the Saver program.
The Saver program from Laverne.
Yeah, Laverne University. And so we used to go every day, 4 to 10, every day to Laverne.
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, and sometimes even on Saturdays when we had special projects to do. So,
4 p.m. to 10 p.m.?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I graduated from Laverne in '78.
And how many students were participating in the project?
100 started in the project, and 80-some graduated from the project.
Oh, it's a good retention rate.
Yes.
It's a very good retention
They were going to
rate.
write a thing about it, but they interviewed us, but I never found out from Laverne what they did with the information of why the program was so successful in Saver.
So mostly people that participate in the program were kind of like you,
Yeah.
homemakers.
Homemakers,
moms.
married, moms, their children were grown, and a lot of them, like Connie Cabrera, she was in my group. She was a little bit older than us, but she made it and went through school, and we all struggled, but I think the success rate on this program was that we were all together, and we talked about our problems, we talked about school problems and projects, and we got together and had coffee and discussed, and we had a lot of fun, and we were very, very close, and we helped each other.
So a good support group.
Yeah, I think that was it. Uh-huh.
Did you have support from did the students have support from their husbands?
No. A lot of divorces.
¿Por qué no?
Because the husbands were jealous, and they said they needed to dedicate their time to their children and staying at home and cleaning. And because my husband, I had a hard time with my husband too, because he said, no, I had to stay home with the kids. I was too old. And I said, no, I'm going to do something for myself. So I persevered, and I had a lot of problems trying to become a teacher, but at home, problems at home, but I persevered, and I finally got it.
So the Mexican culture kicked in
Mm-hmm.
with a male.
Oh, yeah, the male. A lot of them had to drop out because the husbands didn't want them to be going to school.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them became master teachers. Some of them became principals, so a lot of it was very successful because we wanted something, and I think we got the opportunity, and we said, we'll go for it, and we'll do it, and we have to do it. We have to stay in it.
That was the influence of your grandmother and your mother.
Mm-hmm.
That gave
Right
you
there.
the strength.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
and I'm not surprised, Esther, because even now when we have our new students that are coming in from Mexico, especially,
Mhm.
they still hang on to the culture
Mhm.
that they don't want their girls to participate
Mhm.
in activities that would get them away from the home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did
Yeah.
you end up teaching?
My first year I did Crestmore, and then I went to the junior high for the 3 or 4 years. I don't remember how I was at junior high when they had 6th graders up there. And then I went to Ellis Burney, and I was there for 10 years. And then I went to Zimmerman for my last 5. So I had a very, very good time teaching. Especially I enjoyed Zimmerman because I taught kindergarten, 1st grade, and I got to get them when they're very young and put them out. Mm-hmm.
So you had fun with that, those
Oh,
grade
yes,
level.
I loved it. I
Uh-huh.
loved it. And I didn't want to retire because I thought, no, I'm not going to retire until I'm 70. So I was 67 at the time I retired, only because my husband had left me his money, and it was building too much interest in paying for the government. I said, no, I better retire. That's why I retired. But I wanted to stay on longer.
Mm.
As a teacher, did you teach, you were teaching elementary grades,
Mhm.
but did you ever include anything cultural as part of your
Oh, yeah.
teaching?
Yeah, all the time. And because I always had the children that spoke Spanish, And we did Spanish and English in my classroom all the time, so they became bilingual. Mhm. But I really enjoyed teaching.
And you also saw the district, well, like so many districts, start to drop or pull away from
Yeah.
bilingual
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, and I said, why, if it's successful, you know, a lot of my children, they learn how to write and read English and Spanish, both languages. From the kindergarten, first grade, it was fantastic what I saw, their growth in both languages.
Hmm.
So,
So that was good, wonderful experience. for
oh
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And to this day, I miss it. You know, I said, what am I going to do? But I taught my great-grandchildren before they went to school, so they would be prepared. Yeah.
Are they doing well?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. One of them, Jared, is coming here to Cal State. One of my great-grandchildren. So.
Well, he's following his grandma's footsteps.
Well, I hope so, because I emphasize, you know, the only one that went back to school when she was older was Gloria, my oldest. She
Uh-huh.
got her AA, and she was working on her BA, but she passed away, so. But she's the only one that followed through. Because all of them, I keep telling them, you need an education, you need this to be successful. And they think it's too hard.
Life is hard, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Como dice el dicho, la vida es dura,
Mhm.
pero más duro que la aguanta.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Life is hard, but the guy
Mhm.
that person that bears with it is much tougher.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. You said that when you went to Colton High School,
Mhm.
that the Anglo girls would say Mexican girls, you say go back to where.
No, they used to say, oh, hi. They used to write in my annual or tell me the cute little Mexican girl from across the tracks. And I never paid attention to it until I'm older now that I say, well, why did they write that to me? Because like I said, I love high school. You know, I don't know how anybody can say they don't like it, because it's either work in the fields or go to high school. So I'd rather go to high school and do something. And I remember with this one teacher that I think maybe that's why I became a teacher, because she was Mrs. Serrano, but her name was Miss Weiss.
Yes.
She was my English teacher,
Yeah.
and she married Serrano.
She married
Yeah.
Tirso Serrano.
Yeah. So she was the one that told me, you know, you should go to college, and you have a great mind. You should use that great mind to go to college. And I said, well, I'll think about it, but my parents don't have any money. So, but she put the seed in Mrs. Humphrey from elementary school, because when I was going to the 6th grade, Mrs. French was my teacher in the 6th grade. And I was a correspondent and all that, but one day she asked me to go to the front room to read, and I couldn't go because of some incident that happened to me. And I said, I can't. And so she got really angry, and she said, you stay after school, and I'll talk to you. So I stayed, and I told her the reason I didn't want to go up there. And she said, I don't care if you're dying, if you're bleeding, or whatever. Whenever I tell you to come up, you come up. And then so she moved me to the low 6 with Miss Humphrey. And Miss Humphrey just couldn't understand why she had moved me from her high class to the low 6. And she said, what am I going to do with you? So she gave me an IQ test, and I tested high. And so she went to Mrs. French and told Mrs. French she shouldn't be in my classroom, because all the ones that are in my classroom, they need remedial, things. So I became a teacher's aide in her room. And she had some books that I asked her if I could borrow them. And I was 12 years old in the 6th grade. And I was reading Homer, the Iliad, Ulysses, and all the travels in Greek mythology, and I got involved, and I loved that, so I started with that, and I loved reading. After that, I read every day, and I got books from the library and anything I could get my hands on, and that's how I think I became a teacher, because I was an aide right there, helping all the kids learn something in that classroom. And then Miss French said, oh, you can come back to my classroom now if you want to, but I refused. I just stayed in the low class, and I worked with the kids there, and I liked it.
So you were also a teacher, and you got your reading. And
Mhm. Yeah, I enjoyed Mrs. Humphrey, and she told me, oh, no, you're a very good student. You shouldn't be in this class. I don't know why Mrs. French put you here. So, but I enjoyed, and she told me, make sure that when you get older, you do something with your life. So Miss Humphrey and Mrs. Weiss were the ones that helped me. Because I remember what they told me, you need to go to school and, use that mind.
Uh-huh,
Mhm.
uh-huh. Esther, how did you, you mentioned the little cute girl coming from South Colton. Were there any other incidents when you went downtown Colton that?
Oh, yeah. When we went to, like to town, they used to look at us and see they followed us when we went into a store, followed us all the time. And I don't know if they were afraid we were going to steal or we didn't have any money or what, I don't know. And then when we went to the New Colton Theater, Mr. Myers made us sit on the left side, and if we got to the right side, they escorted us out of the movies or back to the place and stay there.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that my dad, when I was, I think maybe about, and I don't know why I remember things when I was really little, 2 or 3 years old, he took me to a restaurant downtown in Colton. I don't remember where it was, but I know that we walked downtown, and he went to a restaurant and told me, look at this. And there was a big sign on the outside that says, no Mexicans and dogs allowed.
Hmm.
And I remember that, and then
you were only 3 years old?
Yeah, 2 or 3, when I saw that sign. And I always had it in my mind, and then when I got older, I told Helen, my friend Helen Abril, about it. She said, oh, no, Esther, you're wrong. I never saw it. I never heard that about that. You're wrong. So one time when I went to the Wilson School picnic, I saw the paper there, and I said, this is the thing that I remember. It was there. It was in the Colton Courier that they had that sign that was in one of the restaurants. So I remembered that we were segregated and they didn't want us on the north side.
What about the candy store or the soda shop or any of those?
Oh,
places?
Hunters. We had money, but we had to go through a window they had. If we wanted to buy candy, we had to buy it through the window. We couldn't go into Hunters.
Mm.
Until when I was I think a senior in high school, then we could go into Hunters.
Uh-huh.
Junior, senior, then we could go in there. But when we were younger, we couldn't go. We had to buy our items through the window.
What about the clothing and things like that?
Oh, clothing. They used to have a lot of shops downtown. They had, Hellman's, Willett's, Moto Day, JCPenney, Adele's, and other little stores there that had clothing and shoes. I used to buy all my shoes at Brill's and Willett's and things like that. But I had, like I said, I had money when I worked in the fields. I always used to save $50, $60, and then I had that in my pocket to go buy things.
Uh-huh. And there was no problem with the stores?
No, not at the stores, because you had money, you paid.
So green is just kind of a good ticket for admissions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. But I had a lot of fun growing up with, especially my grandmother, who was there for all of us, all the family, all the cousins.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a good support, a good foundation, a cornerstone for the whole family.
And then she made me read in Spanish, like I said, La Opinión to her every day, and then I used to write letters to her family in Mexico, because she didn't know how to write and read, and so I used to do it for her, and she said, make sure you never forget your language.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Mrs. Weiss,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Miss Weiss. She married Tirso Serrano.
Mm-hmm.
A story that I heard, Esther, was that Mrs. Weiss was the assistant superintendent.
Dean of Girls.
Dean of Girls, Dean of Girls. And that one meeting that she had with the Gringo girls, the Anglo girls, and she told them, you better stay away from those Mexican boys, because otherwise you'll get in trouble.
No, I never remember her saying anything, because I know she was really great for all especially the children that wanted to learn, the Mexican children that put an interest into their studies. She was really wonderful. She was the one that told me to go to college, and she said, you need to further your mind. And then when I was a senior, I used to do shorthand in my junior and senior year. And like I said, Mrs. Cobb was a shorthand teacher, and she had me transcribing and doing all this, and she gave me all these awards, Newbery Awards that had for shorthand writing. And she made me be on Success Day, she made me be the teacher for the juniors and seniors shorthand. So I taught shorthand when I was a senior for that day. And I remember wearing this blue dress and my high heels and my nylons and stuff, and I went upstairs and I was walking down. I fell down. And then I tore all my nylons, and I had to have one more class, and it was a senior class that I went down, and I was so embarrassed, and I just took off my nylons and said, I'm going to just go like this into the room, and I taught the juniors and seniors shorthand.
Oh, very good, very good. So you did like high school?
Oh, I loved it. Because I worked in the field, so I know what it is to work in fields and break your back doing those kind of things. I said, no, I'd rather get an education, and I loved going to school.
And Esther, you mentioned some of the people that you ran into at the school level, the teachers. Who were some of your heroes as you were growing up?
Like I said, Miss Weiss was one of mine because she always gave me books to read, extra books and stuff, and she told me to read these books, you'll like them. And I remember she gave me Ramona, the first book I read about Ramona from, I think it had to do with Indians around the area, because I think I read something about it being an Aguamansa thing there.
Yeah.
That's where Ramona was based on or something, in Alessandro.
So you, that was one of your heroes. Any
Yeah.
others? Any other heroes?
Like I said, there were not a lot of them just tolerated you.
Your grandmother was one of your heroes.
Oh, my grandmother. Oh, yeah. Well, at home, my grandmother and my great-grandmother, we used to call her, her name was Telesfora Segovia, and she never put her married name, Guzman. She always said, yo soy Telesfora Segovia. So she's my hero because 4'11" woman, she was the one that was the basis of all that they had. She built the home, she had the money to build the homes because she had the perseverance to, when they went mining, they found gold in different places. My grandfather, Valeriano, used to go with this man and they used to put the gold in a little bag. My grandmother used to take a little every day and put it in her little handkerchief in her center right here and kept it there. And if it hadn't been for her keeping that money, because Anglos came and stole the money for the gold nuggets from them, and they took them all, and my grandmother just had that, and so they bought land in Rose Hills. And then she bought 2 cows, and she sold milk to the Campo Colorado in La Habra. She sold milk and cheese and butter to the people. There was a community of lots of people from different places. There was La Francesita that came from France, and a lot of people that came from other areas of the country. They lived on the Campo Colorado, which was like a project for the city. And all the houses were red. There were 3 streets with red houses. And she made money selling her milk. And they planted everything they had. They had chickens, pigs, goats, the cows and everything. And I never went to a store to buy fruit because there were fruit trees all over. We had everything, vegetables planted, everything. We hardly ever went. And my grandfather established a pool hall. And then he also built, with my great-grandfather, they built a big building where they put showers, individual showers and bathrooms. And the people that didn't have inside plumbing, they used to come and pay 20 cents to take a shower. And that's how they made their money.
And this was in La Habra.
La Habra. Yeah, but both families were very instrumental in doing their own, all the time, doing different things to earn money.
And where did they mine the gold?
I don't know where they went, but they were very young before they had my grandfather. And they were very young, and all that money my grandmother saved, and they bought land in Rose Hills, and then they sold it, and they bought land in La Habra. So, but it was because of her. And she worked also in the chili factory where they paid them with gold nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
So she had money to start her things that she wanted to do in life. And my grandfather was also working in the school. He was a janitor for the schools in La Habra. But there's a similarity between the Guzman and the Hernandez.
Mm.
And because they both had the priests eating at their homes. Like my grandmother and my grandfather had Father Stapleton and Picarelli and all those priests, because I always were very Catholic oriented. I always attended church. So that's why I'm writing about both of these 2 great people that were from my life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, it's been a little over an hour that we've been talking.
Oh.
And, is there anything that I forgot to ask you?
No, I don't think I think we touched everything that was on the paper here.
Frank, did I forget anything? Or Henry, did I forget anything? Lily?
We talked about the church leaders. I think we talked about almost everything except number 8. Is there anything else that I already told you about La Habra?
Yeah, and The last thing is, what was the best thing about living in Golden?
Family. To me, my family, because we grew up, all cousins were, like Gloria, my cousin Gloria Castillo, and all of us, we were all together. Connie and Rosa and Monsignor, we all lived together. Monsignor lived on L Street, but they came to my grandmother's house all the time. So, but family-oriented and church, going to church is the basis of. Because to this day we still meet once a week to say rosary. The whole family that can go.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Well, Esther, thank you very much for sharing your life with us.
Mhm.
Very, very interesting, and I commend you for working on your book, a family book,
Mhm.
and I think it's just coming along fine. And are you sure that I didn't forget anything?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because I told you all about my grandmother, grandparents, Tortilla, and about Tortilla Factory, and about myself, my birthplace, and experiences. When I was young and all that stuff. Mhm. I think we covered most everything.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.